So welcome to the Corporate Attorney Panel. My name is Elizabeth Broccoli. I am Associate Director of the Pre-Law Institute at John Jay. And it is my pleasure to be joined tonight by three speakers, and we have one who's joining us a little bit later. But I'm going to turn it over to the moderator of our panel this evening. She is a recent alum of John Jay. And a very active Pre-Law Institute student. So I'll turn it over to you now, Hillary Robinson.
So thank you so much for that introduction. As Ms. Broccoli said, my name is Hillary Robinson. I am a recent alum. I graduated in 2019. So not too long ago, post-pandemic, I guess. I majored in law and society, and I minored in sociology, and then I got a dispute resolution certificate. And as Ms. Broccoli also mentioned, I was very involved, if you'd like to say that, in the Pre-Law Institute. Yeah, but with that being said, I'd like to open the floor to our panelists to introduce themselves, and then two, I would invite them to answer a question after their brief introduction. So for the first question I'd like you to answer, in your introduction, could you please tell us about a path you took before becoming a corporate attorney, or what made you decide to practice in that area? So maybe we could start with Kenny, because you're the first person on my screen, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kenny Terrero. I'm graduated from John Jay in 2000, so I'm probably the most senior graduate on this panel. Went to Brooklyn Law School and been working at Sidley Austin in a corporate capacity now ever since my entire career. And in terms of the path, so I was fortunate enough to, while I was in law school, I was exposed to litigation. I worked during the day and went to school at night, and worked at a boutique firm with just phenomenal people. They were just awesome, good teachers who really mentored me and gave me, they gave me a lot of leeway to do things that a paralegal wouldn't be doing because I was in law school. So I was drafting complaints and I was doing things that lawyers were doing. And then one time I had to draft a complaint for a contract dispute. And I remember it was a McDonald's franchise contract dispute. And it just, I caught the bug. I was like, okay, it just resonated with me. Like writing that complaint was different because it was more about me analyzing the provisions of the contract and seeing whether there was a breach rather than just, essentially writing out a story, which is the way I felt the other litigation descriptions that we did. So I caught the bug, but I was still en route to being a prosecutor because, in John Jay, they do such a great job with all of the fourth, Fourth Amendment, common law, those classes were phenomenal. So I was very much into that. But when I got to law school and I was exposed to the legal side of things, and I took contract law and I took corporations, it just opened it up for me. And once I took contract law, I knew right away, I was like, I'm going corporate. And I just focused my entire time, and every class that I took was to make my resume look good because I was in Brooklyn Law School and I didn't want to end up in a corporate environment. So I knew I had to present a certain profile. And I, fortunate enough to land at Sidley, where I've had a great career in the corporate environment that we could talk about later on.
Yeah, some also in future introductions, I'd like to invite you to explain a little bit more with the vocabulary, because I know maybe, as well as myself, maybe not so familiar with some of the words that you guys are using to describe your places right now. So with the following panelists, if you could just include that in your introduction, that'd be great. And then we'd open up for questions at the end.
I could go next. I'm Gary Sylvain. I graduated from John Jay in 2015. I went to Ohio State for law school. And I'm currently general counsel at a boutique company that processes payroll. What kind of drew me to the corporate world, I mean, I just kind of tried a bunch of stuff and knew what I didn't like. So well, first of all, in John Jay, similar to what Kenny said, there's a lot of litigation opportunities to learn that area of law. However, I realized that I did not like that. Not that it isn't interesting, but it just wasn't really my thing, but I did want to pursue law school still. So in law school, every course that I could possibly take to expose me to different areas of law, I took. Every externship opportunity I could take, I took advantage of that as an opportunity to learn. And it was kind of a process of elimination. My second year of law school, I had an opportunity to work in-house as a law clerk, which is basically an intern. And I was an intern for a corporation for the most of my law school career, and I loved it. And after that, I got a job offer at L Brands, which I also enjoyed. And it's just kind of been in-house ever since. So that's my story.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Hillary. Hi, everyone. I'm Shawna K Goodman. I graduated from John Jay in 2004. So, Kenny, I'm competing with you there. And then shortly after, went to law school at Northwestern in Chicago. And currently, I am in-house, meaning as distinguished from Kenny, who's at a law firm. So there are two categories, I think, when we're thinking about corporate law. You'll hear the term as a law firm, which is where Kenny is. There are a lot of these wide shoe law firms, some larger, some smaller, that represent large corporations. If you're an attorney for one of these large corporations like myself, and we would say that you're in-house. So your client is this one entity that you work for. In my case, I am a technology transaction attorney for a company called PVH that I'm going to hazard a guess that you guys have not heard of, but I believe you are familiar with Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Izod, Joffrey Bean, True & Co, Warner's. All of those companies are owned by PVH. And was there and my trajectory. So I started my legal career, if you will, as a litigator at K&L Gates, a law firm, and just did not like litigation. It was not my cup of tea, right? And I decided in my very first year that I needed to find a swift exit. And the exit path that I took was to go to government, and did a stint there working on contracts, regulatory issues, procurement issues, and then transitioned from government to various in-house roles, so working for corporations.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for your introductions and explaining your road to corporate law. But I think what each of you said definitely brings me to our follow-up question. And that is, in your opinion, how is corporate law different from other types of law? And this is open to any one of the panelists if you would like to answer first.
So I think I can start. I think I'm not sure if it's so different from other areas of law, but what I think it provides is that, particularly being in-house, so working as a corporation and doing corporate law as a corporation, exposes you to different aspects of the business, as opposed to focusing on a singular matter, right? So in my role as a technology attorney, of course, technology transactions are the bread and butter, but I still have to have an awareness and understanding of insurance matters, for example, privacy matters, data security, and a whole host of other areas of the law. So I think in that respect, it is nuanced because it requires you to learn and know a little about a lot of areas in order to serve your clients in the best way that you can.
And I would like to second that with Shawna's comment. As in-house counsel, you have one client basically, and it's the corporation. Whereas in a law firm, you have multiple clients with different matters that you have to juggle around. So you have to kind of anticipate your needs, the company's needs, and based off of the business activities and their operations, what type of legal issues could come up. You're doing risk assessment. You're also not speaking legal jargon as much as you would as if you were in a law firm. You have to speak in layman's terms, which is basically like normal people language. You have to literally know how to communicate with non-lawyers on a regular basis because you have to collaborate with them. Because sometimes I'll read a law and I'm like, oh, this is so easy. And then the CEO is like, I have no idea what this is. And you have to just break it down so that, your client understands and they can make informed legal business decisions, because that's really what you're doing in-house. And I would say that in law school, a lot of what law students learn is basically there's two types of buckets of law, which is transactional law and litigation. And those two buckets, there's so many nuances in between there. With in-house work, it's a way different version of lawyering. It's more collaborative, it's more research-based, it's more people-based, it's more relationship-based. Not that you don't do that in a law firm, but it's just a different feel of lawyering that's not specific to a niche area. You have to be a jack of all trades, and you have to be able to manage different things that aren't just legal.
The way I've always explained the difference for me between litigation and corporate is I'm a facilitator. I'm not here to argue with, the lawyer on the other side, he's not my adversary. I'm here to facilitate a transaction. Party A wants to make money. Party B wants to make money. I'm the person that needs to make that happen. So for me, it's in a transaction, for me, it's more about finding the solutions rather than just arguing. That's how I distinguish litigators. One time I was on a deal with this one associate, and she's all worked up, and it's very late at night. I was just listen, we're not litigators. Relax. We're not here to argue. Let's talk. Because at the end of the day, our clients don't. I'm doing a disservice to my client if I'm combative when I'm negotiating the contract, because I need to get to the point. And in the transactional work that I do, it's very time sensitive, and which is one of the things that I like. You have to almost be an adrenaline junkie for it, because it's at 4 o'clock, if we didn't make the filing by 4, there's billions of dollars lost. Not lost, but certainly you're going to be on the hook for screwing up $1 billion deal. So there's a lot of adrenaline to that, but there's timing constraints. And unlike litigation, and again, this is not knock on litigation, I'm just trying to distinguish, because I worked at a litigation team. It's there is no oh, I'm sick, can I get an extension? It's somebody else better step in because the deal needs to close. There is no, oh, the judge is sick, or someone else is going to take the place, because once the deal is on the clock, you're by regulation, you have to finish it within a certain amount of time. But even then, in a time, just like a pressure cooker, you still I'm always the way I get on the phone, I'm hey, reasonable people can read this provision differently. We're, I see your point, but this is my client's point. And then it gets down to leverage. It's if the company really needs to raise the money and I'm representing the bank, I know I have the leverage. So why would I be, a difficult person? I'm we're reading it differently, but my client wants this. And then, it's whoever has the leverage. And I'm sometimes on the other side where I know the company has all the leverage. And this just happened a day ago. I told the attorney, I said, look, I know how this movie ends. I'm just letting the tape roll, okay? Let's go through this. I know your client has all the leverage. I know my client is going to have to accept it, but let's just talk through the pieces. And that's what I like. It's like you're really just a problem solver. That's how I distinguish it anyway.
I to that end, Kenny, I like to the phrase that I like to use to describe our relationship and the relationships that we have with our clients is getting to yes. Like, I am not going to fight. I just want to get to yes. And whatever that takes to get to yes, that is the nature and the type of conversation that I would like to facilitate. So absolutely agreed.
I mean, great. You guys, our panelists today, you guys are amazing. You guys answered so many questions at once. Um, thank you so much for that. But in the same breath, I'd like to maybe focus the question more so on students that may be currently in their undergrad years or making that transition. So the following question would be, if I am interested in, I guess, studying corporate law in undergrad, what classes or extracurricular activities would you suggest?
So Hillary, I think that's a great question, right? And I think, you know, I think that maybe Kenny and Gary Shaka will have a different take on this question, but I really don't think that it's about the classes or the extracurricular activity. I think that it's primarily about communication skills and writing skills, and at the end of the day, getting exceptional grades. So, right, taking classes that you're interested in and will then perform exceptionally in order to get into the best law school that you're able to get into. And once you are there, then you will be exposed to a variety of different areas, and then you can choose, right? So I don't think, maybe Kenny and Gary Shaka will have some concrete suggestions, but I think the most important thing from my perspective is getting excellent grades, being able to write, and being able to communicate clearly, because those are the skills that are transferable, and those are the skills that will allow you to get in the door, right? So I think that's my take.
I agree 110%. First of all, in undergrad, you do not want to be doing anything that a law student's doing, I promise you, because it's a train that leaves that you could never return on. So please enjoy your time in undergrad and focus on your grades. Make sure you get the best grades you possibly can, get into the best law school you possibly can. And you'll, like Shawna said, you'll get the opportunity to like get into a corporate situation. Like half of my friends in my law school, they're in corporate positions anyway, just because of the opportunities we had in our law school. So just get into a law school that like has exposure to these type of opportunities, and it will fall into place. But like Shawna said, make sure you're obtaining the skill sets, read a lot, write a lot. I would also say not an extracurricular, but if you can, like attending events like this, reaching out to the attorneys on the panel, building relationships with attorneys, because networking is a huge thing that they bring up in law school that no one knows what it means, but building relationships with attorneys before law school is very, very helpful. So if there's anything to do, it's just to like build relationships with attorneys. But other than that, enjoy your time in undergrad, focus on school, and focus on your grades.
Yeah, I will echo the point on the grades. I mean, there's no substitute for excellent performance. If you really want to go to law school, you have to be realistic, right? John Jay is a great school, but you have to perform very well to get into a good law school out of John Jay, right? It's not, if you're in Harvard, you can goof off and you're going to end up wherever you want to end up. So that's first. So putting that as the base case, right? You really focused. If I understood your question correctly, what I would do if someone is interested in corporate, I would read more. I would read the Wall Street Journal. I would watch. I mean, I come to my computer and I put business news the minute. Why? Because that's the world I live in, right? Like, and you don't need that as a prerequisite to practice law, because, you know, believe me, you know nothing. It's on the job training, right? Because the particular area of law that you're doing, that's going to be you know, like, you just need to be smart, as it was said earlier, good writer, you know, be able to communicate well, be able to carry yourself with like a lot of confidence. And that's when I interview people and someone walks in and they just look confident, it's a whole different ballgame, right? But that confidence to me comes from preparation. Those people are well prepared as well, right? So yeah, I think grades are first. If you do have an interest in corporate, read the business news, right? Like, how else, right? Like, you know, educate yourself. I mean, I was the first. I mean, I was started doing hedge funds. I mean, my family mutual funds. Like my family never had an investment portfolio. They didn't know a hedge fund from Sonic the Hedgehog. They didn't know any of that, right? So, you know, I had to learn all of that, and you can come with an advantage. And if you have that inclination, I mean, my son is 13, and I make him read the Wall Street Journal every Sunday. I'm like, I pick an article, I read it first to make sure that he's not fooling me. Again, he knows I've already read it, you know, because I want him to have that, you know, business acumen. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Moving forward, I would like to ask, knowing what you know now about corporate law, considering everything, what advice would you give yourself and maybe some of the students here leaping into corporate work?
I think, honestly, if I were to look back and give advice to, you know, Shawna K 2004, Shawna K, I would say, don't take yourself so seriously. It's gonna be okay. But I think, you know, just really knowing that hard work, dedication, and commitment is the key that will unlock almost every door, right? Having that as the mindset and being prepared to just get down to work, right? Work hard right now, like at this moment that you're in, taking these classes, go to the library, do the necessary work, and then, like we said, it comes down to grades, right? Because even if we just take 2 steps back, when I got into Northwestern, they said, day one, we're not here to teach you the law. We are here to teach you to think like a lawyer, right? So at the end of the day, whether you are so savvy as you guys are to know at this juncture that you want to do corporate law as opposed to, you know, litigation, for example, it all boils down to having that awareness that you just need to work hard in this very moment, get good grades in this very moment, because at the end of the day, that is the stepping stone that will lead you to where you want to go. And that's the stepping stone that will open up all the doors that you need to have opened up in order for you to excel. And just knowing too that you will excel, right? I think that's important. Like, you're gonna do well. You have the tenacity, you have the stick to itness. I just made that word up, which I think is a very important word, but you will do well. And I think that is what I would say to Shawna K in 2004. Like, you're gonna do well. You have the ingredients, and the ingredients that you need to do well is tenacity, stick to itness, hard work, dedication, and commitment. That's it.
For me, it would be to just have just have an open mind. Like, the one mistake I did, or I mean, you know, it turned out okay, but one thing I would never advise anyone to do was I only applied to Brooklyn Law School.
Kenny.
I performed well. And I put in one law school application because I was like, I'm going to Brooklyn Law School because I had it all planned out, by the way. I was like, okay, Brooklyn Law School is, is near the courthouses. I can get internships, is, the DA, yada, yada, unlike the other options that I had. I'm like, I know I'm going to be a district attorney. Like, what better choice than to be in a law school that's near the courthouses? And when I look back on that, I'm like, wow, like, how simple was that? Right?
Gutsy.
It was, it was a little, I was feeling, I did very well, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get in. And I look back, I'm like, wow, that was about the dumbest, like it was dumb. And the second mistake I did was I stayed narrow still because I performed very well in Brooklyn, and people were transferring like out, and I was like, I'm gonna stay here. And then when I look back, I was like, I performed better than some of the people that transferred to like Harvard and law school. And when I look back on that, and I look back at like, just how narrow I was thinking about some of those issues, it turned out well for me. But I think, if you go and just have an open mind, you don't know what area of law you're going to practice. You don't know what you're going to fall in love with, right? If you do know that you have an inclination to be an attorney, but there are a lot of different disciplines, in law, right? Like it's not even within in-house, right? You can be in-house and you perform in a GC role. You could be in-house and you could be, the IP specialist, right? Or you can be the employment specialist, right? At Sidley, I'm in a particular group. So just have an open mind and go shotgun, like apply everywhere. Like it's not money lost. It's money well spent.
I would say, to echo Shawna and Kenny, but like for me, it was kind of just staying true to yourself. If you're the type of person who gets into law school, you're probably really smart. So when you're in law school, you're meeting other smart people and they have different styles of learning. And what I did in law school was like, oh, this person, I feel like they're smarter than me. So like, let me try their studying style, which did not work out well. And I will say, just stay true to yourself. If you learn a specific way, stick to it because that's what got you there in the first place. So if you're the type of person who needs to study by themselves, study by yourself. I'm pretty sure a study group is not going to work out. If you're the type of person who needs to be in a group setting or needs to have a very regimented schedule, be that person all throughout law school until you finish the bar exam. Like you need to be consistent because that's really what practicing is. It's a lot of consistency, being able to have that self-discipline to like stay true on the course. And if you veer off of it, it's just going to be a headache. You're going to have like a panic attack, which I've had so many during law school. So like just stay the course, be yourself. You've gotten to the point where like, you want to go to law school. You're going to take the LSAT. You're going to apply. You're ready there. You're ready, smart enough to do what you need to do. So that's like one thing I would give advice to myself, just be consistent.
Thank you all the speakers that have contributed so far. The advice was great. I'm sorry, I'm looking into the chat as we speak. But I think our final panelist is here with us. So I just want to, I can't see you on the screen of everyone, but I want to invite you to introduce yourself briefly. And if you could answer the following question. Could you please tell us about your path that you took to become a corporate attorney and what made your experience in that practice area different? If you like to do that.
Thank you, and hey everybody. First of all, can people hear me pretty well? Is audio coming in? All right. Apologies for being a little bit late at a call, run a little bit over. My name's Braden. Kenny is my colleague at Sidley. I practice securities regulatory law and enforcement. We mainly represent financial institutions in connection with enforcement actions, or it's really a fancy word for government investigations. These investigations are typically brought by the SEC or FINRA, sometimes the Department of Justice. These are generally pretty fast-paced, fast-moving investigations that, involves securities and investment products. I went to Seton Hall Law School, and in undergrad I went to Fresno State in California. Trying to take through the other questions. I think in terms of knowing what I wanted to do, I think it's tough in law school, because really law school and the curriculum is really geared towards litigation. And if you don't want to do litigation, right, you're told that you can do corporate law, right? And that's what you're told. You either do litigation or you do corporate law, right? Which is a very broad subject. Both of these different practices are so broad, in fact, that you couldn't really choose one or the other, right? There are absolutely specializations and niches within those, right? But you're gonna have to get a sense of more than just deciding litigation or corporate law broadly, right? So I think part of that law school journey is being able to seek out mentors and people who have come before you to really find those areas that you want to dig in a little bit deeper on, right? And figure out what's going to interest you, because there's so much, right, within the umbrella of litigation, and there's so much within the umbrella of corporate law generally, right, that you can learn and find out more about. And that's ultimately what's going to be really important for you as you try to enter the job market, right, and start to brand yourself and really create the image and the brand of the type of lawyer that you want to be, right? Because that's going to drive a lot of the decisions you make. It's going to drive a lot of the kinds of people that you want to attract, the mentors that you want to attract, and the mentees that you want to attract, right? So I think it's really important as early as you can to start getting in your mind what that looks like, because if you come into that situation not knowing what you want to explore, it can be over before you know it. There's a lot of people who would say it doesn't matter, don't worry about it. But there's still a lot of folks who graduate from law school still kind of unsure about what they want to do, and what the options are that are really there for them. I think most law school students, when they graduate, they probably don't know what securities enforcement is, right? They probably don't know that there's a particular practice group, right, that you can just focus on government investigations involving securities, right, and what that looks like. And I was just lucky enough to have a mentor and meet somebody who took me under their wing and kind of taught me about what that is. And so I'll pause there, but happy to answer more questions and chime in. Thanks for excusing my my tardiness.
That was great. Thank you so much. You definitely contributed for a better half of the questions in the panel. So definitely, helped everyone out to hear that. Thank you. But just to respect everyone's time, I want to open up the opportunity for students to ask questions in the chat. I already have a couple here, so I'll read those off in the meantime. But in the meantime, everyone else can just ask questions in the chat and I'll read them off. So the first question from one of the students, okay. This question is from Arnell. How did you guys get to pay for law school? What would you recommend someone get out of state? Would you recommend someone go out of state for law school? What would recommend for the LSAT? I don't understand your last question, or no, maybe you could rewrite it. I'm sorry.
So I'll start with the LSAT, with the LSAT. What would you recommend? So I took PowerScore. There are lots of study courses, right, on the LSAT. Pick one, anyone will do. I tried a few, so I knew that Kaplan was not, nothing against Kaplan, but it was not catered to my learning style. And then I discovered PowerScore, and the Logical Reasoning Bible and the Logic Games Bible. And I'm like, these books are aptly named because they were like the Bible to me in really dissecting and breaking down so that I can understand in a digestible manner how to really approach the LSAT questions. As far as, so that's the SAT, the LSAT question. Would I recommend going out of state to a law school? I would say that my approach then and my approach now is still the same. And that is try to get into the best law school that you can get into, right? And how do you pay for law school? I'm still paying for law school. So maybe you want to choose a different approach, right? But but it's really, and that is why it's so important when you decide to go this route, you have to really have a love for the law. And that is the takeaway, right? Have a love for it, because you're going to be paying for it for a very long time if you don't get, a lot of scholarships and grants, etc. I hope that answered the question.
Everyone on point. So another question I have, I think your name is pronounced Emily. What tips do you have for a law school student going into their first corporate internship this summer?
I would say be prepared to work as hard as you possibly can. Like, that is your opportunity to really shine and learn everything that you could possibly learn. I know this is not ideal, but like, be there before the partner that you report to is there. And like, I would recommend making sure that you're not leaving before them unless they absolutely tell you like, go home. That was my approach. I think it was fine. And I think that's how a lot of law students were successful and getting really good jobs from my experience. You have to just work really hard, ask a lot of questions. I mean, no one expects you to know anything your first summer. So it's totally normal not to know something, but do your research, ask a lot of questions, do the work, be prepared. It's gonna be a rough summer, but like, you have to work hard.
Kind of touched on a little bit, a lot of work, but what are some of the pros and cons of working in a law firm as compared to in-house? Yeah.
I mean, I haven't worked in-house, so it's hard to say pros and cons. For me, the law firm offers a lot of variety, and I you get to see. I was joking this morning that I don't know if it's because the phone listens to me. The phones can hear you, but I'm on a deal and the deal launched, and then I picked up my phone to do something, and the deal was like the first thing on Market Watch, and I'm like, I'm working on this, so I find that exciting for me. I'm a kid from the Bronx, and when every closing $1 billion deals don't get old for me. So that's what I like about it. There's a certain variety to it. There's a certain grueling aspect to it, right? But the thing about it is everyone around you is working hard. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. And you're working with very smart people, and it forces you to level up. And I like that, like right now, I mean, it's like Vietnam right now. Like, it's like so busy, and I'm there, like, people are just dropping. and I'm an adrenaline junkie. So I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, the market is hot. Let's go. Like, let's brawl. Like, you're not gonna outwork me. Like, that's not gonna be the reason. It's gonna be something else, but you're not gonna outwork me. And I like that, and to be in the middle of when COVID hit and the shit was hitting the fan and the airlines were going down, and I was working in the United Airlines, like their $1 billion raise, and I couldn't even talk to my wife about it because it was so confidential. It's kind of thrilling to me. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on a pretty big deal. I'm about to save the world, not certainly save that airline though, but not the world.
I would say though, I've definitely experienced working in a law firm, and I'm in-house, obviously. I mean, I don't think there's necessarily pros and cons. It's just like what like type of personality you have and what drives you. Because like Kenny said, he loves to like outwork, like you're not gonna outwork him. Like for me, that was like, I don't want to have to deal with that. I want to work as a team. I want to build something with someone. I don't want to compete. So that's my personality. So that's why I was really drawn in-house, that I got to work as a team with other people. It wasn't like, it wasn't as intense. I'm an intense person, but like, I don't want to have to like compete like that. It's just not my personality. But when you have that type of drive where you want to work, you want that thrill of like closing the deal and working really hard on a big project, that's, a lot of people have that personality and it suits them. So it's just like figuring out like what you like and what drives you as a person that like would be a pro or a con. Because what Kenny said was like super like a pro, that's a con for me. And I'm sure there are some things in-house that's probably a con for him because it's not exciting enough. So it's just like knowing yourself and like how, a work environment would suit you as an attorney.
But in addition to that, I think also it's about variety, right? So when you're at a law firm, as Kenny is, he has a variety of clients. So United, he may have JetBlue, he may have, the list is very long. When you're in-house, your sole client is the corporation. So every day, you're really working with, Kenny can be on a deal with wonderful people today, and tomorrow he's on a deal with some not so wonderful people because his client is very diverse. When you're in-house, it speaks to you have one client, and that's the business teams that you work with on a day-to-day basis. And you really have to be able to develop and hone and build, the relationship with them, because the likelihood is those people are going to be at the corporation for, pick a number, 10 years, 5 years, whatever the case is, and you are going to have to be their problem solver. So, working hard and having that drive and passion and, burning the midnight oil, I think is still applicable to being in-house, not as crazy by any means as it is at the law firm, but I think it really boils down to variety.
Yeah, and I think it also depends what your goals are, right? I think it's really, really different. But you have to kind of consider, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be? Because that goal, right, your long-term goal may include both working at a law firm and working in-house, right? What do you see for yourself, right? And different panelists have brought up different pros and cons, right, of each. I think for some people, working in-house is absolutely their jam. It's what they're meant to do. It's where they kind of feel the most fulfilled as a lawyer. A lot of folks who end up really thriving in-house started at a law firm. They started at a law firm. I think that oftentimes, I'm not going to speak for all the time or for everybody, but I think oftentimes starting at a law firm can be really good, can be the best, because you're able to learn how to be a lawyer, right? How are you going to serve, your corporation in-house without having been on the other side? I think it's a little bit, you can do it, right? But I think more often you get your legal training at the law firm. You can kind of learn the ropes and then go in-house and be really, really helpful. There are people who do it in non-traditional ways as well. There are people who started a law firm, go in-house, and then go back to the law firm, right? So there's a lot of different options and different paths.
I think I'm going to merge some of the questions together because some of them in the chat are quite similar. So I will merge Natasha's and Leah's question. And I know the panelists already touched base on this briefly, but if you guys are willing to expand. What is the workload like? What does the day-to-day look like? And also, what are your hours as a corporate attorney?
Ken, you want to take that away? I'll go. So being being at a law firm, you're working definitely. When I was at a law firm, I was working. There are some nights that I would go to work in the morning. I would leave work the next morning, go to New York Sports Club that was in Grand Central, shower, and then go back to the office. Note that I did not say that I went home at any point after I left my house, right? So that is clearly, that's not every day, but you have to be prepared for that. While being in-house, I, on a regular day, I'll start at maybe 8 and I'm off at 7, 8, where there are some days, if I'm not super busy, I can jump on my Peloton at like 4 o'clock. So it varies really. But I think on average, people that are at a law firm work much longer hours than people that are in-house, which is why so many people dream of going in-house, like I did.
Brendan, you want to go?
I mean, I could go. I mean, my workload, I'm the GC. So like, I mean, everything, the business, every issue the business has just comes straight to my inbox. I have so many emails that I still need to go through. It's insane. But I will say that I work for a boutique company, so it's not as bad as if like I was working for a huge conglomerate. I mean, I would say I work between like 75, 80 hours a week, which I think is lower than a law firm attorney. So I feel like my work-life balance for an in-house counsel is pretty decent. Similar to what Shawna said, like there are days where, I mean, I get a lot of things done and I'm done by like 4, but there's also days where if there's an emergency, I'm like up until like 1 or 2 in the morning. It just really varies based off of the business needs and deadlines. I feel like something that's not really different wherever you are as an attorney is that your workload will vary based on a day-to-day. Nothing is the same. Like every single day, every single morning, I sit down at my desk and I write all my to-do list. And it's really just like carrying over things from the prior day into my current day's to-do list. And then it's the same thing every single day. So your workload will vary and then you'll never accomplish everything on it because something else pops up and an emergency comes up. So, I mean, don't expect anything as far as like getting things done, but like, it just varies.
I think it goes back to what Braden said earlier. It has to be your goal, right? I mean, we're well compensated, but it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. We work a lot of hours, and under pressure situations. That story that she mentioned, that is true because last time I slept was, I think, a day ago. I did not sleep last night. Right? I'm fortunate enough that I'm home, so I didn't have to go to the gym to shower. I went upstairs. That does happen, because, like I said, this is not litigation. You don't get to postpone the deadline. Like the deadline is, the clock is on, and you have to do the work. So then you're like, wow, why the hell will you do this? It's not always like that, right? It's like ebbs and lows. Like it's like the deal is coming, what's coming your way. You sort of prepare yourself and you understand what's coming. But the workload is heavy, but it's a trade-off, and that's why you have to have a plan. Like if you get a job like this, like are you going to pay off your school loans and then move on? Are you're going to save, buy a house, and then move on? You have to have an objective in order for it to keep. You have to have a goal that's going to keep you moving forward because you can get lost in this place. Like, I mean, people get lost. Like the divorce rate is high, this and that. Some people lose themselves. They forget who they are. So you have to have a plan. It has to have a plan, and whether your plan is I'm going to make some money in the big law and then pay off my student loans and then go in-house or however. If you have a plan, it's better. You know, again, it goes up and down the workflow, and I'm an adrenaline junkie, so it works for me.
So lastly, I want to ask the panelists if they would like to put their contact information in the chat, because we definitely have a few more questions directed to each of the panelists individually. So maybe that'll help out some of the students. But for the last question of the night, I'd like to ask, what advice would you give someone who is trying to get into their field with no experience? For example, law firm, legal assistant, states that I graduated last year and I'm trying to find a part-time legal job while studying for the LSAT. Following internship advice, question mark.
I think.
I'm sorry.
Did you say repeat it?
Well, I felt like there were many questions in there, so
I can answer part of it. I think the first step to kind of figuring out how to find, how to get that internship, how to enter that job market, how to secure the position you want, is try to pinpoint some people you want to be like. I think that can be a really, really helpful first step for a lot of different reasons, right? Number one, that person may be a great ally. That person may be a great resource for you. Maybe you can ask to have coffee over Zoom, have a drink over Zoom, and kind of ask them questions and learn more and figure out how they got there, right? But I would target somebody who's doing something that you want to do or has done something that you want to do. And first try to connect with them. If they can't find time, study their LinkedIn, study their resume, figure out what they did to get where they're at, right? You can learn a lot on LinkedIn. I've learned a tremendous amount about different career paths and different things that you can do and who's connected with who and who might know who based on LinkedIn, and seeing who's connected with different people and what their career trajectory has looked like. So I think doing your homework is a huge, huge step. And part of that is finding people who have done something similar to what you want to do. Another part is just, the boring aspect of research, right? If you want to do corporate work and you want to do something that involves securities, you should probably read the Wall Street Journal every day. I think most people, there's a corporate law panel. You should probably be reading the Wall Street Journal every day. You should probably, be staying apprised of things that are happening, watching Bloomberg. Knowing what's going on, I think, is really important. If you can have a conversation, because let's say you get that networking meeting with somebody that you really look up to, you want to be able to have a conversation with them about things that they care about, right? Can you hold a conversation about issues that you are, you're saying you want to do this stuff, prove it, right? So I think that that's been a really helpful thing for me too, is I did my homework. And so when I had that conversation, I knew what I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to be able to talk to them on their level about things that they cared about. And I think that helps, a potential mentor or a potential sponsor say, you know what, this person's already done steps 1 through 99. I'm not going to stand in their way. I'd be happy to do anything that I can, right? So put yourself in a spot where it's easy to help you out, right? It's easy to advocate for you and help you get to the next step.
I mean, yeah, I think that really sums it up, to be honest. I mean, I was the first attorney in my family, and not having any experience, a lot of what I did was really just having informational interviews with other attorneys. I didn't really know what different types of law there was. So literally, if someone was practicing something I had no idea about, and I was at a networking event, I'd make sure to see who the big hitters were, do my research, and then talk to them and be like, hey, this is what I know about your industry. But I'm curious, and I'll have very specific curated questions specific to their practice area. And it was really easy to develop relationships. And honestly, half the jobs I was able to get was because through networking. People were like, look, she doesn't have experience in law, but she does her research. She works hard. She will do all these things to make sure she's going to be on par with everyone else. So networking is a huge, huge help when you don't have, you know, the background in the legal field, because those people will help you. And if they see you put in the work, they'll definitely come up to bat.
Can't stress that enough.
Right.
And I did not put my information because, as someone mentioned, go to LinkedIn, right? Like, it's a different thing. I could put my info there. You can email me or not, right? But if you link me in, then we're connected, right? And that's, you know, and then you see my network, and then I, you know, it's a different story, right? You have to use the tools, you know, this day and age. Like, you know, I'm always, I because I can tell who looks at my bio, and I'm always like, okay, I know when I get off a panel with a student was interested and they look, it helps you see who is interested, like real interest. If they're interested enough to do that legwork, you know, then you know they're going to be top of mind.
Actually, I see that a few of you have already connected with me on LinkedIn during the course of this panel. So kudos to you. And I'll definitely be, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us, because we're here for you, and we're happy to provide you with any resources, answer any questions that you may have.
Would our final panelists like to add anything to the last question?
I would just, not necessarily on a particular question, but I would just like to leave people with, you know, and you know, for some people, I think they know this and you know, they've been told this and they believe it, but I just think, you know, for undergraduate students right now who are thinking about going to law school and who are maybe unsure, you do belong there. You belong in law school. You do belong. And even if you don't see the representation that you would like to see, you belong and you can do it. You can make it. We want you. The bar wants you, and we'll be better with you there. And don't let an apparent lack of that representation make you think that you can't do it. You can do it, and you know you belong. If you're already practicing, right? Like, it's just the same thing. I think we shouldn't need to hear that, but I want to make sure that we all know that.
Right. Sorry for the
Agreed.
questions in the chat. But all in all, I just wanted to thank all of the panelists, all of the speakers for contributing your time and answering these answers were amazing. I definitely learned more than what I came in knowing. Yeah, and I'll just thank everyone and on behalf of the student body, the students here, and Mrs. Kemp and everyone that helped to orchestrate this event. And thank you all for coming. Thank you for students for coming. And yeah, everyone have a great day. Stay safe. And
I just want to add a quick thank you to our moderator, Hillary. You did an amazing job. So thank you to all the panelists for taking the time. On behalf of the Pre-Law Institute and Alumni Relations, you know, we appreciate you for coming, and students, we're so glad that you could come. If you're an alum, please connect with Adjoa. And if you're thinking about going to law school, please connect with us at the Pre-Law Institute. We just opened applications for our LSAT prep program for the summer. So everyone, have a great night.